Hey friends, welcome back to Joyful Homestead. I'm sitting here in our berry patch surrounded by blueberries and blackberries and violets. Really a lot of things growing in here right now that are great for foraging. Have you ever thought about what you might be able to do with violets? Do violets grow in your backyard or in the woods or meadows near where you live? It is a cool thing that Dan and I have really grabbed a hold of to just learn about the things that God gave us that are already growing everywhere that we don't have to plant, but we can still use. So violets are for sure one of those things. They are very edible, they are medicinal, and they're beautiful. Okay, so a quick overview of violets. I'm sitting next to two different kinds. Found throughout North America would be these purple ones called the common blue. These ones here don't have any aroma, but totally edible. Then we've got these white ones with the purple stripes, very beautiful and delicate. These are called the Confederate violets, only found in the Southeast, so we're very fortunate to have them throughout our property. Both of these very edible as far as the blooms and the leaves, but nothing below ground is edible. Also, African violets are not edible either. It's super important when you are foraging to do so knowledgeably and responsibly. So either use a plant identification app or a book to make sure you know what you're looking at and that it is what you think that it is before you attempt to use it. A lot of plants do have lookalikes, so that's important. So it's fun to watch violets popping up in the spring and decorating our farmyard, but what can we use violets for? Well, I'm so glad you asked because I want to tell you about some of those things and even show you a few of them. Because they're both edible and pretty, bakers will often use them on cakes and cupcakes. You can garnish salads with them, just sprinkle in the blooms, use the leaves in with your greens. That's both nutritious and pretty. They make a great salve. You can put the violets themselves into a salve that would be great for topical use. And then the things I'm going to show you today would be violet jelly and violet tea. I'm about to go start picking these violets and gather everything together that I need for the two projects I'm going to show you today. So I know from my farmyard that there's never been any chemicals sprayed on these, so these are perfectly safe. You can also find a place in your yard or in a place near you that you know has never been sprayed and gather some violets together and come join me in these projects. The easiest thing is to look for a big patch of violets as it takes a lot of flowers to make even one cup. Pinch off the bloom, and it's okay to keep the green base of the petals, which is called the receptacle. If you get the long stem, just discard it. Then pick as much as you need for your recipe. The jelly recipe I use calls for 2 cups of violets, and I'm picking extra to make some tea. Next, put the flowers in a sieve or a strainer and rinse. Then, if making jelly, put them in a bowl large enough to steep them in several cups of water. Okay, it is the next day after everything that I've just showed you. It's been almost 24 hours. So what I did all in all was 6 cups of violets that I picked from our yard. They're in abundance here, so that worked out really well. I put 2 cups to the side for tea. Some of that is back here. I'm making some fresh tea, and I'm also going to be drying some tea, so we'll talk about that last. But the other 4 cups that I had rinsed and drained went into this bowl, and the 4 cups of violets were in the bowl, and then I poured 4 cups of boiling water into it. So I'm gonna put the recipe in the comments below. It's not my recipe, I got it online, but I really love it. I used it last year and I was real happy with it. But I doubled the recipe because I'm gonna fill a bunch of small jelly jars and give a lot of these away as gifts to friends. They're a beautiful little springtime gift. So anyway, this is a double recipe. So the 4 cups of flowers and 4 cups of boiling water, I just poured into the bowl here. and then I covered it with a plate so that it would steep, and I kept it that way for, it's been almost 24 hours now. So after that 24 hours, look how pretty this is, this gorgeous purple liquid. That's why I like this jelly so much. It's just fun and pretty and different. So this is ready for me to pour through the sieve into my baking pot. So I put this in it, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pour this in here. So the liquid's going through really well, but I'm gonna use this spatula just to kind of push down and make sure all the liquid is squeezed out and squeezed through the sieve to make sure that I get as much of basically the liquid part of the flour that I can before I put in the rest of the ingredients. So I'll finish this up and then I'll add the rest in just a minute. I've got my stock pot on the back of the stove here, and it is warming up the water. This is for my water bath canning. As soon as the jelly is finished, it's gonna go into the water bath for canning, and the jelly is gonna be hot. Therefore, this water has to be really warm. They have to match each other, otherwise we break glass jars. So the first thing I'm gonna put in is, well, it's lime juice. The recipe calls for lemon juice, but unfortunately, I forgot to check my inventory and I don't have any lemons right now. And so right now what I have is lime, and the recipe calls for 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Again, I'm doubling the recipe, so this is 1/2 cup, and the lime juice is gonna do just fine. Next comes my sugar. Ooh, look at that. It's turned from a purple to a gorgeous bright magenta. Next comes the sugar. 2 cups is the recipe, and so I'm about to do 4 cups in here. The recipe calls for 1 package of a 1.75 ounce box of pectin. Since I'm doing the double recipe, I have bought 2 boxes of the pectin. So I'm gonna put those both in. And finally, I'm gonna turn my burner to high, and then I'm gonna whisk this until it is really well mixed and we've dissolved all the sugar and all the pectin. I'm gonna bring this to a boil, and when it's boiling, I'll be right back. Here we go. It's starting to boil. So as it was coming to a boil, once in a while I was just checking it with the whisk, making sure nothing was stuck to the sides or the bottom. It's doing really well. So one last little whisk. I don't find any pieces of anything at all. So I'm gonna turn the heat down to medium high and let that cook for 5 minutes, watching to see if after 5 minutes it has reduced a little bit and thickened a little bit. So I quickly realized that that pan was not gonna hold my double batch and continue to boil up like it was supposed to. So I switched it to this pot real quick, and I'm gonna get another stock pot for over here for my canning. But hey, sometimes in the midst of cooking, you just do what you need to do. Make changes as necessary, and I'm gonna keep watching this over the 5 minutes. Okay, it's done. I skimmed off the foam that was around the edges on the top, and now I can see residually on my cooking utensil. Yep, that jelly is starting to form on that, so it's time for me to get it in the jars. As you can see, I have started putting the liquid into the jars. Need to leave a little headspace at the top, and these funnels are so valuable. It helps keep everything clean. It keeps from having anything up on the rim because you want your lid to go straight on tight without any residue. So I'm just gonna fill up all these jars and can this first batch of these 6, and then I'll have a second batch of 6. So much fun, yay, I'm excited. Okay friends, home stretch. All of my little 12 half-pint jars are filled, and I put the lids on, and then you're going to put the bands, I'll undo this one so that I can redo it for you. You're gonna put the band on tight and then scale back a little bit, because you do not want the contents under so much pressure with so much tightened that the glass just has trouble and it could explode on you. So back off a little bit. We've never had a jar break in our canner by doing it this way. So after you get it out of the canner, that's when you actually tighten it completely. So then over 24 hours, it is sealing perfectly well. So I got all the 12 done, and then I even had some left over. So this is just gonna be my refrigerator jelly. It'll be for us, and I'll put this in the fridge after it's completely cool, and I'm not gonna can it. I just put a temporary lid on it, and we'll just eat it over the next several days. First batch done. I got them out, set them on here to cool and to completely sit still for 24 hours, and I tightened each one. So now they're nice and firm, and those should seal well. Actually, some of these have already popped. So I'm gonna put the second batch into the canner, and if you wanted to know more about how to do water bath canning, we're gonna just tag at the very end of this video our water bath canning video. So that will help you more with the step-by-step. Okay friends, on to the violet tea. I have 2 cups left from the violets that I picked yesterday. I had 6 cups, made my jelly, and I have 2 cups left, and I wanted to use some of it to show you the 2 different ways that you can make violet tea. So a little bit of it is for in here, I made some using the fresh flowers, and the rest of it is outside in my sun oven, baking in the sun, drying, so that it will be more like a loose leaf tea concept that we'll keep in a jar long term. But I took the 2 tablespoons or so, I'd say, of the fresh flowers, and I put them in this cup, and then I put 1 cup of boiling water on it inside this cup, and I let it steep for 5 minutes. So sometimes the fun is just the wonder of what happens in nature. So I'm curious, what color do you think the tea is gonna be? Well, let me show you. Check it out. Check it out. It is nothing like the jelly. Let me get this off of here. I strained out the flowers, and that is a beautiful blue color. Can you see that? Oh my goodness. I love that. So again, just like the jelly, violets have a mild flavor. So there's not going to be much to this tea. If your kids need something for their cold, their sore throat, and their cough, hopefully they won't be complaining too much about this, because there's nothing bitter about it. Very mild. It would probably mostly taste like honey if you added some honey to it. So this would be a wonderful thing for calming down the throat, the respiratory system. It is an anti-inflammatory, so if the lymph nodes are having trouble, it'll be good for that. And if you need an expectorant, that's what this is good for. It thins out the mucuses so that you can cough those out. Just a really good throat respiratory type of remedy. It's getting toward evening time now, and I've finished the last of my violet projects. This is some of my loose leaf tea. It turned out really great in my sun oven. It sat out there for 2 hours and dried and removed all the moisture. So if you don't have something like a sun oven, you can use a regular oven. Just make sure you go all the way down to 100 degrees in temperature. You can air dry it, but that will take several days, or you can use a dehydrator. Any of these will remove all the moisture so that what you have left is just the dry leaves and or blooms, and that can be put in an airtight container and kept long term for loose leaf tea. So I hope that you've enjoyed all these projects. It's so much fun to forage what we can, both knowledgeably and responsibly, again, for the things that we can use. I hope this has been really helpful for you. Happy spring. See you next time.